And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Howdy everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Raiders of Scythia. Now, this is from Garphill Games, and Garphill Games is very well known for doing the North Sea trilogy. Raiders of the North Sea, Explorers of the North Sea, Shipwrights of the North Sea, and of course the West Kingdom games. And their most famous game currently, was nominated for a Kennerspiel, is Raiders of the North Sea, which is the best of that trilogy. Actually, it's better than the other two put together, times two. That's how good it is. Really like that game. So I was curious what Raiders of Scythia is like, and actually this is simply a 1.5 version of Raiders of the North Sea. It's very similar, to the point where in a couple weeks I'll do a comparison video between the two games so that you can see the differences between them. I don't want to focus on that here in this particular video. If you've never even heard of Raiders of the North Sea, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you a little bit about how this game works and talk about this game kind of in a little bit of a vacuum. Here we go. As you can see, it's a big long board here, and players are, this is a randomized setup where there's going to be a bunch of loot placed at different spots here. Each of those loot stands for gold, equipment, wagons, and livestock. There's also going to be workers on the board, gray, red, and blue workers on each spot. Each player is going to start with a blue worker of their choice, as well as their own hero and crew. Players will be drafting from pairs of heroes and crew. You'll get one of each. This one gives you a special ability that can be used over the course of the game, and there's lots of different crew members that you can have. You can have up to 5 over the course of the game, and they also have special abilities, which we'll talk about in a bit. You also start with some money and some supplies, and you're ready to go. Essentially, the game works in that players are going to take their worker on their turn, place it on a spot on the board, and take the action of that spot, then remove another worker and take the action of that spot. Now, these are spots that when you place something there, something will happen, but you also can go on raids down here, which is kind of a different action. And when you go on a raid, and you'll take the worker that's there at that raid, this worker will stay here permanently, and now you have another worker. You'll notice this worker is gray, and there are spots on the board that can only have gray or red workers put on them. This spot here can only have a blue or a gray worker put on it. There are also spots on the board that will give you a different thing based on the color that you put there. Speaking of that, let's take a look at some of these spots. This one here gives you money. This one here can give you a supplies or a wagon. This one here lets you discard cards for money or supplies. And this one here lets you draw cards. There are a lot of different cards, crew members in the game, and you are trying to recruit these people. You're going to want to put them in front of you into your crew. They're going to have recruit costs. You'll see them here. They also have a strength up here. And like I said, they have special abilities on them that will work in various ways. So they're all going to be different. There's a whole pile of different crew in the game, and each one's going to do various things. Some of them are better on raids, and some of them help you out in town. And as the game goes by, you're going to be building up a crew here so that you have a strength big enough to go on raids. There's another spot in the town where you can get animals, and in fact this person here has a special ability that lets them get animals. These animals can be eagles, which here, for example, allows this person's special ability to be activated in town, or they might double the ability over here. Each of them, like this person here says, gain 3 silver if killed in the raid. Well, if they're holding this eagle here, then when they're killed in the raid, I'll get 6 gold. And then, of course, there's some eagles that are just worth a point and 1 extra strength. Horses, on the other hand, are a little more straightforward. You stick a horse underneath, and the horses will add points and or just strength in general. So animals can upgrade your people that you have out here. That can make you even stronger when going on a raid. So when a player does decide to go on a raid, they need to make sure that they have the proper color worker that goes there. They're also going to need to have a crew of a certain size. Here you need 3 crew, and you need to have this many supplies that you're able to pay to go there. Once a player goes there, they're going to be determining their total strength. Now, your strength is your crew plus any special abilities you have. You can basically drink up spending these resources to get extra strength. But you're also going to be rolling dice. The dice that you roll are going to always be shown at the side. So if I go over here, this is Scythia. You can see right here I'm going to be rolling a red and a white die. And also, I'm going to be rolling gold dice. They protect the gold even more so. And since this area has a gold in both sections right now, I'm going to be rolling those 2 yellow dice. Once I roll, I'm just going to roll all these dice together. I'm going to be adding any numbers that I roll to my strength. So here in this case, I'm adding 5 to my total strength. But I'm also taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wounds. Those wounds will be placed on my characters. Each wound that you put on a character is going to reduce their strength by 1, and if their strength gets reduced to 0, they're dead and they're gone. But there are spots on the board to heal the wounds, and I might not care because, you know, you saw that one character that when she dies, I get silver, so maybe I wanted her to die along the way. I'll then look to see if I've reached a certain numbers here to get victory points. There's a certain number of victory points based on how high my strength is. I'm also going to get the different resources here, which can be worth points or different things. And then this tile is going to go up to the top, where later on, if you turn in these different things that are shown here, there's a spot up on the top where you can turn in various things to score more bonus points. This is like a quest. This spot then is gone for the remainder of the game. You put the gray worker here, and I can no longer attack this area, although this area can be attacked still. And in fact, if you attack that area, you're now only rolling 1 yellow die because the gold from this area has been looted. So that's pretty much the game. I mean, there's a lot more than that. I didn't go over all these spaces in detail, but you play the game to do that. There are some spaces where you'll activate your chief's ability or anybody who has a hawk. There are, like I said, these quests here, and more quests will show up that you will be turning in different resources to get the points for those. And when you run out of quests or you run out of spots on the board, when you get down to a certain number of each one to raid, that's going to trigger the end of the game. And then you're simply going to see who has the most points. A lot of points are gotten from raiding. Some points are gotten from having different resources and completing quests. Most points is the winner. Now, the game looks like it has a ton of components, and it really does. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with them. The different things that you can raid, the different resources are a little boring, but they have to be, because you're going to be pulling them from a bag at the beginning of the game, putting them randomly on the board. The artwork is something that is growing on me. I did not necessarily like this artist when they did the last game, the alien one, but this one works for me, and I kind of like it better when they draw characters who are not necessarily staring into the camera frame. Like, I like her better than him. Some of these people, it looks like they're posing necessarily, but the ones with more actions and things on them, I tend to like those characters better. And I really do like the horses and the falcon artwork. I think that looks pretty good. And the board itself, I really like this. I think it's neat. I like how each section is a different color. And the background, I'm a big fan of these kind of macro Where's Waldo style boards. The one thing I don't like, look, I love these resource pieces, and I think that I have metal coins and upgraded stuff. I really like that. But my major problem with the game is the iconography. So if you can see right here, these look, I feel, fairly similar to each other. This one here these stand for the supplies, which don't necessarily match to me, and this one here stands for a wagon, which is that piece. And I just found, when glancing at cards and such, those kind of bled together for me, and I didn't find the symbology in this game to be that easy to read, because they're like they look nice as big drawings, but when they're shrunk down, they kind of blur together. So you can see when you pull out here a little bit, it seems they bore together, and you say at the time you're making a much ado about nothing. But this was a pretty big deal for me over the course of this game, because when you're sitting on the side of the board, this really does look like 3 supplies if you just glance at it, or you're just at the wrong angle. So that I had a problem with. That's my only problem component-wise. The dice are absolutely fantastic. The boards, the quality, once again, everything's kind of shoved into a box it barely fits it, but that's Garphill Games' MO at this point. But overall, I like the components. It just was that iconography that didn't work for me. Despite some of the iconography problems that I had, I love this game. I really think it's fantastic. Raiders of Scythia has just this neat mechanism of worker placement. Worker placement is done in many games. It's overused to some point. But this game, it's neat because you place a worker, pull a worker, which means sometimes you want to take a combination of actions. It's just not possible. If there are 2 workers on 2 spots on the board, I can't take both those actions. I can take one of them by pulling the worker off, but I can't take both. I can't pull both workers off. So there's this constant going around the table. There's a little bit of interaction between players in this game, but it's essentially a race. You are building up in that village to the point where you can go down and conquer these areas. Now, in one sense, this is a push your luck game, because you're going to go down and raid areas. You need a certain number of supplies and a certain number of, whatever you might need, crew members or whatever, to get down to these areas. You can go down with bare minimum, not get as many points, or you can overload and go down. You overload and go down, you will probably lose fewer crew. You're more prepared. You're ready to go. But at the same time, someone else may have raided 2 settlements to your 1, which could end up being a really big deal. You can also raid a few settlements and then work on fulfilling the quests and not really worry about getting the huge settlements at the bottom of the board. But that's kind of risky because those huge settlements at the bottom of the board also provide a lot. But what makes the game really fascinating is the crew members. There are a ton of crew members. Now, there's duplicates in here, but this one here, for example, gives an extra victory point when you go after Assyria. In town, they let you draw a card and then take another town action. This person pays 1 less wagon when you're raiding Greece, but they give you a wagon up in town. This one here, gain a silver after taking a chief's 10 action, or gain 2 kumis, the little drinking things, and take another town center action. Pay 1 less provision when raiding Syria. Gain 2 strength when raiding with a gray worker. Gain 1 kumi after taking a meeting 10 action. And so you're sitting there trying to build this really cool crew. But you're also looking at their strengths, like the ones with 4 strength. Yeah, I love those. I'd rather have those. And you can also then sit there and go, I'm going to load everyone up with horses. I'm going to load people up with eagles. And a lot of this is based on your hero. At the beginning of the game, which is fascinating to me, where you're going to be picking these people. So each one of them has a special ability. The one that you saw there that I had in the overview let me get eagles more quickly. But this one here lets me take 2 town center actions. This one lets me gain a silver, a kumi, a provision, and a card. That's a lot of stuff that this person can get. This person's kind of drunk. They get 4 kumis and a provision. Here, you can discard a card to hire a crew member for free. In a game where the economy of getting those silvers and paying them can be pretty pricey because you need to get that silver to buy more crew members, this person can be pretty powerful. And it's so interesting to me how different each of these is, and it's going to affect your strategy for the game. This game is also not tremendously long. It scales well. I've played it with 2 to 4. I like it. I've not played it with 1. That is Mike Delicio's wheelhouse. But I like how it looks. I like how it feels. Now, I know I said at the beginning I wasn't going to spend time comparing this to Raiders of the North Sea. And so I don't want to get too much into that until I compare them together. But if you're a quick thing there is that I think Raiders of Scythia is an improved version of Raiders of the North Sea. Raiders of the North Sea with its expansions, both of them, is probably better than Raiders of Scythia. But Sans expansion, this one is better for sure. It adds horses and the eagles, and it takes out a little bit of the take that was in the original. So I like that stuff better. But even on its own, I think this is a fantastic game. It's simple. It's fun to play. The whole place a worker, pull a worker thing works well. Turns are pretty quickly. There's a bit of a kind of the game stops briefly when someone makes a raid. And there's that bit of that turn angst as you're trying to, as the game progresses, there's fewer and fewer spots to raid. And pretty soon you're like, I got to get down there and raid that spot before someone else does. and I like that. I like the diversity. Every game you're going to have a different hero and a different group of crew. It even gives you a bit of a story, these crews, like, oh, we're going out raiding, huzzah. And altogether, just a fantastic little game. Definitely check it out. That's Raiders of Scythia. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!